Oops. I'm going to find my mask, I think. Oh, yeah. So I'm going to find my mask and put it on because I'm getting closer than 6 feet for a moment from Mrs. Shipman. And I'm going to turn my computer this way. Mrs. Shipman's going to join me over here. Hi, Mrs. Shipman.
Hi.
So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pull away from the camera just a little bit so that Mrs. Shipman can take her mask off to be able to answer questions and all of that. So I'm going to be just off camera, but off camera enough where I'm socially distant and not going to cause a problem. So here I go. I'm moving away just a little bit, but you can still hear me. So Mrs. Shipman, you can move just a tiny bit closer. There we go. Perfect.
Is that better?
Yes. Okay. So now that we're socially distant and everything's okay now, just want to run through a few questions, and not in any particular order, but I think it's important. I know you've been here a long time, but a lot of people don't know who you are. So why don't you kind of talk to us a little bit about how long you've been at Marcus Whitman, and originally, you know, why did you choose Marcus Whitman?
I chose Marcus Whitman. I've been here been transportation supervisor for 6 years now. I've been here in March, it'll be 27 years. I graduated from Marcus Whitman. My kids went to Marcus Whitman, and now my grandkids go to Marcus Whitman. So I know the district, I know the people. It's a good community and it's a good school district.
Yeah, that's what since I've been here, just my second year, the community is just fantastic. I always tell my mom, I can't say enough just about how great the people are, and just how understanding and kind, and also people who are willing to work together on anything at a moment's notice. And you just don't get that in every community. Yeah. You just don't. Yeah. So our next question, what does I don't think people understand what your work day is actually like. So like, what time do you get up? What happens? And what time do you finally get a chance to unplug and settle down for the night?
I usually I get up 4:30, 4:45 in the morning, take phone calls if I have phone calls. Normally that's when, if I have anybody that can't come in, that's when my phone calls come in. So my day starts pretty early, and then I get a chance to finally get here. I'm here usually 5:30, 5:45, 6 o'clock, depending on how many phone calls I get in the morning. And then I start out with, I check my voicemails to make sure any of you guys that don't need rides. Then I go into my secretary's office on the other side, and my head bus driver's office, and I check their phones because their phones have different answering services on them too. Take those phone calls, and then I just start my day, starting out with making sure all my drivers are in. They have to come in and walk by my office so I can get a good look at them. They all have to sign in, get their keys. Then they head out on their runs, and basically they go on their runs. And then when I come back, when they're out, I work on trip sheets. I work on changing routes around. I work on food service deliveries for Carla. Get that organized and assign drivers to that. And then we go into the afternoon, and it's the same thing back over again. Phone calls, daycare forms, bus passes, when kids that are assigned to stay after. The teacher emails us, and we email back the bus they're supposed to ride, and so on and so forth. And then normally my day ends not even after I get home, because I still get phone calls when I get home too, from the community, parents, my head bus driver. Situations happen that they have to be addressed.
Yeah, so that's a pretty full day.
It is.
So I would call that getting into your battle rhythm, right? So after 20
Yes.
something years and then 6 years of doing this, you get
Yes.
you're pretty kind of like being a superintendent in some ways.
Yes.
You work a lot of hours, but it's almost like if you weren't here though, things
Yes.
would pile up. So it's
Yes.
it's good to have you doing that.
Yes.
So
I feel guilty when I'm not here.
right, yeah. Well, but you need time when you have to take time,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
One question that sparked my interest too is, we are always looking for bus drivers.
Yeah.
So if somebody gave you a phone call and said, hey, I think I want to be a bus driver, how long would it take from that phone call until the time they're a bus driver? And maybe what are some things that people would want to know about becoming a bus driver?
That's the most ironic thing. When we have a new person that comes in, when the person goes through the whole training and then they look at me and they go, wow, LeeAnn, I really didn't realize what all is entailed to become a bus driver. Your age is a factor on it. You have to be fingerprinted, you have to be drug tested, you have all this training that you have to do. You have to take a 30-hour course. You have to, we do train here. We have to have certain people that are certified to train. The new law now is the road test is really hard now. You have to go under the engine. You have to know all the parts of the bus, what the parts are for, let alone how to cross a kid, how to handle a student. The road test itself is 2.5 hours long now. It's not just like you go drive a bus around and that's it. You have to learn how to parallel park this big 40-foot bus, both on the left side and the right side. You have to do the straight backing up, the turn backing up. It's just ironic how things you have to do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of training. If you go and get your permit, it takes, I'm going to say with the new road test, probably a good 2 months, 3 months even. And then if you can get in to get a road test,
right,
that's probably another month down the road.
because of COVID, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But I find, when I talk to bus drivers, I always ask them, like, what's the favorite part of it? And they always say the kids.
the kids.
Right. Yeah.
The kids.
That's funny. Most of us watching this can probably remember who our bus driver was.
Yes.
And that's how important our bus drivers are. Right.
If I'm out to town before COVID hit and I would run into some of my students on the bus, I had my bus run for a lot of years. And I was picking up kids of parents that I took back and forth to school. And it's a good reputation, rapport, whatever. They come up and LeeAnn,
Yeah.
they give you a big hug, and that always puts a smile on your face because, they really do remember you, because you're the first person they see in the morning and the last person they see at night. And a lot of them get comfortable with that.
Yep.
If they've had a bad day in school, they'll come in and they'll open up to you.
Yeah.
And it's hard you want to listen to them, but you have to drive and be safe at the same time.
Right.
But it works out great.
Yeah.
And you've got to love kids in order to do it.
Yeah, you absolutely do.
It's stressful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you're driving a moving classroom,
Yes.
essentially.
Yes.
So if a kid is out of line, you can't just put them in the hallway, because the
Right.
hallway would be the road.
Yeah.
And you're driving
There's no
away.
hallway.
Right. There's no hallway. Right. So, yeah. So one more tough question before I ask you a couple of softball questions. Okay. So how about, I'm not sure that people know how a bus route is designed. So can you kind of walk us through how you design your bus routes?
Our district is unique because we're one of the largest school districts in New York State. I think we rank number 7 or 8 now. I think Penn Yan finally took over
Yep.
for us. We're 154 square miles, and no matter what way you look at it, from this point where we are here at the bus garage to the farthest point out of the district is 30 minutes. So there's no way you can make that shorter because of the size of the district.
Yeah, true.
And we try our best. And that's why the logistics of it. I know parents get impatient, but you've got to remember that if we have one student, if I have a parent that calls me in the morning and says, Johnny's not riding today, and Johnny's on one of the farthest points out of the district, then it takes less time. The next stop, that driver has to slow down because timing is everything. And they have to slow down because otherwise they'll be at their first stop that's not there anymore. Their second stop will be earlier. So, and it's hard. The parents just don't understand the logistics of it.
Yep.
And I've tried to, when we used to have our orientations with the kindergartners and the pre-K, if you have one student that isn't on the bus, it makes a big difference in a 154 square mile district.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your run can change as much as 20 minutes.
That's why we need helicopters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would work. So for parents too, I had said in the beginning of the school year that we have a server on the way that we're going to be able to have
Yes.
students check in and check off the bus. And then if they have a smartphone or a
Yes.
computer or a Chromebook, they'll be able to see how far away the bus is. Once it gets 2 miles in,
Yes.
they'll be able to get it. So that's still in the works. I want
Yeah.
people to know that we've just been,
But today, our little GPS unit things, our
Yeah.
tablets and the brackets to hook them up into the buses came today.
that's great.
So that's a start, a
Yeah.
good start.
So if you're watching this, give us another month or so. And if you've got a smartphone, you'll be able to see where the bus is in relation to picking up your kid, and
Yep.
that'll help to ease, I think, a lot of
Yes.
concern, especially in the winter
Yes.
when it gets dark so soon.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and it's dark when the kids are going to school and all that
Yes.
kind of thing. Yeah.
And the program will be able to print in the program if the bus is broke down. We'll be able to print it in there, and they can see that on the phone that, yeah, so and so bus is disabled at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, everything's okay, but it's just
Yeah.
it's broke down and they're waiting for another bus to come and pick them up.
Yeah, I just think that that's technology that we
Yes.
have to have, I
Yep.
think. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and we will. So,
Yep.
well, I appreciate that. So a couple easy ones for you, I think, right? So, how many buses do we have in the fleet?
36.
36. And
36.
how,
3 Suburbans and 2 cars.
okay. And then how many miles do we travel in a year total?
A normal year, anywhere about 800,000 miles.
Okay.
A lot. This year, this year, of course, it'll be cut down because haven't done anything since May or
Yeah.
since March.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's where I think the size of the district comes into play, or the
Yep.
geographic size,
Yep.
because my previous school district was, I think it was 92 square miles. I had 100 buses, and we drove about the same number of miles, but I had 5,500 kids.
yes.
So I had to have way more buses out on the roads, but we still traveled the same amount. You have 36 buses on 154 square miles driving about the same thing.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
an interesting
Yes.
piece. Yeah.
And yours probably was all flat land too. Ours is,
Yeah.
one side is mountains
Right.
and one side is flat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've got, in the wintertime, you got drifting on the flat, and then it's a whole nother world when you get up in the elevated areas.
Yeah. Yeah. As I know, when I'm trying to call or not call a snow day, I'm aware of that here. Yes.
It could be foggy and snowing up there, but raining down here.
That's why I'm happy to have a truck.
Yeah.
So I think something that so we have 36 buses, so people might make the assumption that we have 36 bus drivers. That's not true, right?
No, we have close to 45 bus drivers.
Yeah, because people get sick. We have different things that we have to do and all that kind of thing. And
but that's monitors. I'm counting my monitors
Yep.
too. My substitutes. I have 4 mechanics. Well, 3.5 because Paul drives bus too.
Yep.
He's a part-time bus driver too.
Yeah. And
So
speaking of mechanics, what have they said is the most common repair?
the most common repair would be our brakes.
Okay.
And then tires.
And tires. Okay.
Replacing tires because of the miles we put on.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
then the lights, the clearance lights.
Yeah.
and that.
Well, I think a lot of our buses take a beating because it's nothing against the people who do the roads. It's just that we have some roads that are just tough.
Yes,
And
yes.
and all that vibration and that kind of thing
Salt
just
and,
gets in there.
potholes,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I should know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. How many miles does a bus have on it when we take it out of service and we want to trade it or sell it? Approximately.
Approximately like 180,000.
Yeah, 180. So for all of you out there who are trying to put 200,000 or more on your Toyota Camry, our school buses have got almost that many miles on it.
That's
I actually
It
know.
just broke in then.
Yeah, I know somebody that put 1 million miles on a Toyota once,
Yeah.
but we're not going to put 1 million miles on a school bus. It's not going to happen. I
I've
don't
got a
think.
couple of them that have 200,000 on, but they're my
Yeah.
spare buses that I have to
Yeah.
have them.
Yeah, and just with the
So-
corrosion and everything that
Yeah.
happens, you just can't
Yeah.
keep them. Yeah. So here's kind of like a philosophical question, right? So what's one thing that you wish everyone knew about your job that might make it easier for you to do your job?
The logistics, just
Okay.
be patient. Logistics is the big thing.
Yep.
Because like I said, depending on the day, depending on the weather, depending on the amount of kids we have,
Yeah.
it all factors into it.
Yeah.
It's not just Johnny's bus is here at 8:00.
Yeah.
Well, there may be some reason why the bus isn't there at 8:00.
Yeah.
Something could happen. And I don't have the time to call every parent on that bus. I wait, they call me and,
Yeah.
the buses broke down, and usually pretty good about that. Communication is the big
Yeah.
thing.
And I'm wondering if our new
System should help.
that a lot, I
Yes.
think, because parents will know exactly where that bus is
Yes,
when it's 2 miles or less from their home.
Yes.
Right. So I think that would be huge
yes,
for
yes.
people.
And a lot of parents too, they think that we need to beep the horn.
Yeah.
If we're sitting there, beep the horn. Well, New York State doesn't want us to do that because it's more of, we teach our kids when we cross.
Yep.
If we hear the horn beep, go back to where you started from. It's a safety factor. It's not, well, the driver was here, but he never laid on the horn. Well, we're not supposed to.
Yep.
If the driver does do it, the driver does it for courtesy.
Well, that's a great point. And I think one of the things that changed 5 or 6 years ago, maybe maybe a little bit longer than that, was the idling of buses,
Yes.
right? So used to be you'd go in your bus circle and every single bus would be on the entire time waiting for the kids to get on there.
Yes.
And now we can't. And then
No.
sometimes people wonder why, well, my child was cold the first few minutes of the afternoon bus run. Well, if the buses had to sit in the circle for a little while, they cannot be on.
Right.
And that's
Right.
a little bit of a tough thing too.
Yes.
We've kind of gotten used to it, but
yeah.
And
And also too, with COVID, we have to ride with our roof hatches open. That's going to make it cold in there.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
And our windows have to be ajar. So we've got, and it's been hard with the rain and stuff.
Yeah.
So the parents should kind of try and remember that when they're putting their child on the bus, because they really should have their coats with them, because the windows are cracked a little bit for ventilation because we're in such close quarters.
Yeah.
And they're masked more all the time. But
Right.
Still, for ventilation, that's what Department of Health has recommended us to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So before I ask Mrs. Shipman the last question, anybody who has any questions for Mrs. Shipman, feel free to type them in, and I'll make sure that they get answered. So probably, this is a question that I'm going to ask everybody, and I've been asking a lot of people this question. What's been your biggest takeaway from this pandemic?
My biggest takeaway from this pandemic is how we've all worked together to make it safe for the kids to come back to school.
Yeah.
I've been not only in logistics with the bus runs, I've been in with Carla with food service, with Dan in the buildings logistics stuff, the food delivery stuff. It's just been a real enlightening experience on how we all came together to make this work.
Yeah. I keep saying that to people that's been my biggest takeaway too. It's the togetherness, and we're going to get through this. And there's people hurting out there, but they'll still do what they have to do to make sure that their child gets the education and things that they need. And that just is amazing. It's just a testament to parenting, number one, but it's also a testament, I think, to everybody that we've got here helping to make it happen on our end too. So, so look, no questions for you on the YouTube channel. So you got off easy.
I got off easy.
I appreciate your time, and maybe we'll have you on again at another time. Okay. And so
I can hang around a little while.
Yep. So we're going to have you move you and your whole chair, because we're going to practice good pandemic. I'm putting my mask back on too. And I'm coming back in here. So hopefully you learned something today from Mrs. Shipman that you didn't know about school transportation. And I think after we get done talking to Mrs. Woolston here, we're going to learn something else, some more stuff about food service that we didn't know before this started. So I'm going to have Mrs. Woolston kind of pull in here, and we're going to ask her some questions as well. I'll get your chair.
Because I have a precious cargo.
Oh, yeah.
Do.
So we're going to put your chair right there.